caught up in all the news from yesterday about Clemson filing, the ACC, what that means for Florida State, was a little tidbit about Miami that I think a lot of people may have seen, but a lot of people glossed right over. It was such a crazy news day, and that doesn't even touch on the insanity that happened with the transfer portal yesterday with Iowa and Alabama. We're not a national channel, but may cover that on our national channel, which is absolute insanity. But news came out about Miami with regard to this entire ACC drama, this suit with Florida State and now Clemson involved. And again, I think a lot of people miss this, and I want to talk through it a little bit. Let's talk about the tweet, and then we'll talk about it and break it down a bit. Matt Baker of the Tampa Bay Times says, as we sort through the sides in all of this, I can report at least 5 schools that were in favor of the special January meeting to approve the ACC's amended suit against Florida State. Miami, Pitt, Louisville, Georgia Tech, and incoming member SMU. Again, at least, meaning there were certainly more teams in favor of it, but these teams were the ones that Matt Baker had confirmed. What does it mean? Now listen, we crack on Miami a lot, and I know this is going to sound like I'm going to do it again, but I promise this is not like a troll. This is not me just making fun of Mario or trying to laugh at them for a stupid play against Georgia Tech or anything like that. I really do think about this and think that it's kind of weird for Miami. And maybe there's a couple of conclusions you can draw. Miami fans, I am more than happy to hear your thoughts on this down in the comments. I have actually appreciated some of the Miami fans on YouTube and some of their thoughts on conference realignment. And I promise you, I am not cracking on your program. I really just am kind of mystified by this. The other teams in agreement on this totally make sense. Pitt, Louisville, Georgia Tech, SMU, those teams do not have, and I don't assume, do not have a solid landing spot in the Power 2. Maybe you could see a team like Pitt and Louisville going to the Big 12. Maybe the ACC can stay together and those teams can stay here. I don't know, but I don't see any of those teams. Georgia Tech's not going to the SEC or the Big 10. I know there's people that say, oh, Atlanta. There are so many FSU fans and other fans in Atlanta. I don't know that the Big 10 needs them, right? And so those other teams kind of make sense for this. But then the Clemson news came out and ultimately overshadowed this, but I think this is troubling if you're a Miami fan. I think what it ultimately means for Miami is that they're right now worried about not getting into the Power 2. I don't think you vote to make it harder for Florida State to get out if your ultimate fear is, hey, do we have a landing spot? See, right now, Miami has a decent deal in an ACC with Florida State and Clemson. Now, Florida State and Clemson are to leave. Miami's in a lot of trouble. The value of the conference goes down so much that they can't stay. They can't continue to be there. And so they've got to figure something out. Well, do they accept the Big 12? Do they have a spot in the Big 10 of the SEC? I always assume they did. And as much as we like to give Miami a hard time, as much as we like to crap on Miami, that's still a very powerful brand. And it looks like a brand that is investing in athletics again. You look at Mario, you look at what they've done building buildings, you look at some of the different things that the initiatives they have going on. But for Miami to vote or to be in support of trying to hinder Florida State from getting out kind of hinders themselves from getting out. If the Noles can't get out and if Clemson can't get out, Miami's certainly never going to get out. And so they're putting themselves at a disadvantage. You didn't have to do this. You didn't have to, if you're Miami, be in favor of this. Obviously, Clemson did not. We've learned that through Clemson's lawsuit. And so it worries me if I'm a Miami fan that maybe Miami is not certain that they can get into the Power 2. I think Florida State and Clemson, again, this is not a shot at Miami. I'm not trying to troll them with this video. I think Florida State and Clemson are very, very confident that they can get to the Power 2. Otherwise, I don't think they'd be making this leap. I don't think they'd be doing all of this. I don't think they'd be risking paying $500 million just to land in the Big 12 or have to be independent. But if you're Miami, is that a worry? If I'm a Miami fan, that's how I read that. I don't understand why they would support limiting FSU in this way. You didn't see UNC's name on there. You didn't see Clemson's name on there. I don't quite understand it. I think Miami for a long time hasn't had the right emphasis on athletics that they should. There's a lot of blame that goes around about Donna Shalala and their president and just their view, and academics are so important. But that doesn't make a lot of sense to me either as far as an excuse First of all, they brought in Clemson's former AD. That's a big plus there. Somebody who is very familiar with the athletic side and making a top athletics program. They also have a massive investment right now in NIL. They do a very good job there. And obviously, they've invested a ton of resources into Mario Cristobal, his staff, and what they're doing. And I know we make jokes about the on-campus stadium, and I know we make jokes about this, and they haven't been relevant since here. But they are building buildings, and they are investing in NIL, and they are putting their money where their mouth is. And even if all of that wasn't the case and their main focus was just academics, the Big Ten's academics blow the ACC's out of the water. And so it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Why is Miami kind of slow playing this, kind of trying to limit Florida State? What are your thoughts, Canes fans? I truly do want to hear from you. I mean, I know the Florida State fans are going to be all over these comments, calling them scared, calling them chickens, saying that they don't have the brand power, the logo. I think Miami does. I think it's Florida State, Clemson, obvious 1-2. I think North Carolina and Miami are right there. I think UVA is right after them. And that's how I see the breakdown of the conference. And we control Miami all we want on the field. That's not necessarily what this is about. We all want to get out of this crap conference. We all want to move on from here. So this is not oh man, let's get on Miami. Let's troll. I think Miami deserves to be out of this conference. Even if they had to go to a new conference and eat it for a little while. Like Washington's in on right now, I think a 40% share or a 50% share in the Big Ten. If Miami got on a 50 or 60 or 75%, not a full share, but a 75% share of a Big Ten payout, that still blows away what the ACC has. And if you had to do that for 5 years and then you have the promise of more money later, I think that makes sense. I don't necessarily know that I would fight for that to be what Florida State goes for, because I think Florida State's in a little bit better of a position to get out right now. But I think if that was all that I was offered as a Florida State fan, a 75% share, I think I'd take that too. Now, again, at the end of the day, I'm just speculating here. I don't know why Miami leaned that way. I don't know why they voted that way. We got a comment on the national channel that asked specifically from a Canes fan, why in the world would we do this? And so, again, I wasn't here to troll you today, Miami fans. I wasn't here to say your program. I think your program will eventually be in the power too. And that's why it shocks me that this is the way that things were voted on by Miami. I thought Florida State, Clemson, Miami, UNC were kind of in lockstep on this. I know that Florida State's AD has some ties to Dan Radakovich down there at Miami from his time at Clemson. And so I thought that folks were pretty in lockstep on this. It surprises me a little bit that they weren't. Surprises me a little bit that Miami would kind of side with the have-nots, the lessers, the people that we know aren't going to end up in the power too, the Georgia Techs, the SMUs. As much as I want to give Miami a hard time always, I think Miami's better than that. And so it surprises me that is the way that it went down. Listen, we got all the way through this. Let me give a quick shout out to Doug Rohan and the team over at Rohan Law. You guys have seen and heard from Doug all over the place. We have certainly featured him on our channel several times with this conference realignment conversation. If you are in the Atlanta area and you are hurt, injured in a car accident, or if you're in any kind of legal trouble, facing any kind of litigation, any charges, make sure that you reach out to Doug Rohan at Rohan Law. You can follow them on social media. It's Rohan Law PC everywhere. They do a good job of breaking down this conference realignment stuff from a legal perspective. We continue to get Doug on the show, and we will continue to do that. Make sure that you're supporting our friends over at Rohan Law. Give them a follow on social media if you are or are not in the Atlanta area. They are going to be your best friend on your worst day. Appreciate Doug and his team for their support. Again, let's hear from you, Miami fans. Let's hear from you, Florida State fans, just conference realignment fans in general. This is not a massive shot at Miami, but if I'm a Miami fan, I am concerned about this. Let's hear from you guys down in the comments. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys soon. Go Noles.